By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how many dollars you're looting off that bandit corpse and how much of it belongs to the Empire. If we're going to talk GDP, taxes, or buying power, we need to figure out what a septim is actually worth. Let's check in-game prices. Bread is about 2 septims. An in-room is 10 to 25 septims. A decent steel sword runs you 50 to 100. And a horse, it's about 1,000. Now compare that to modern prices. Bread, if it's handmade, will be around $17 per loaf. An inn for 75 to 150 a night. A good sword for 175 to 350. And a horse for about 10 to 15,000. Those numbers land consistently in the $10 to $20 per range per septim, so to make it simple and usable, let's split the difference and call it 15 USD, or around 1175 GBP per septim. It's not random, it lines up with real-world equivalents in multiple categories and scales sensibly for property and big-ticket items. It's a stable, empire-backed gold currency, like the Roman denarius, but with fewer assassins per emperor. Now that we have our exchange rate, let's turn Tamriel into a spreadsheet. We'll look at each province's connection to the Empire, what they actually produce, how many people live there, how wealth is split between the classes, and how much money they generate, and how much of that gets squeezed down in taxes to Cyrodiil. And for fun, we'll see what you could actually do with that money, like a Tamrielic Shark Tank pitch meeting. Skyrim is the Empire's rocky, icy breadbasket of violence. It's basically a Nordic startup economy powered by mining, lumber, mead, and civil war. The population floats around 1.5 million, that's 75,000 in the upper class, 375,000 in the middle, and just over a million in the lower class. With 12,775 septims per capita GDP, that adds up to 19.16 billion septims, or $287 billion. At a 12% tax rate, they pay 2.3 billion septims, or $34 billion. Which the Empire could use to buy every Nord enough meat to maybe stop stabbing each other every 200 years or so. I mean, Jesus, pick a high king and chill. Cyrodiil is the Empire's administrative heart and giant bureaucracy with wine and scenic road bandits. It's the Rome of Tamriel, if Rome was even more passive-aggressive about their taxes. The Dibonais Valley is rich farmland. Tariffs and all river trade keep the Imperial coffers happy. They've got vineyards, bureaucracy, and the occasional Daedric invasion for tourism. We're estimating 3 million people live here, split around 150,000 in the upper class, 750,000 in the middle class, and 2.1 million in the lower class. With about 18,250 septims a year per capita, that adds up to 54.75 billion septims in GDP, around $821 billion in dollars. At 15% taxes, that's 8.2 billion septims, or $123 billion going right to the Empire. That's enough for Cyrodiil to finally invest in drawbridge technology, so boats can actually get past that massive stone bridge south of the Imperial City. Seriously, how the hell does that even work? Elsweyr is the Empire's "we'll look the other way if you just pay your taxes" province, running on moon sugar, desert caravans, and entrepreneurial smuggling. They produce moon sugar and skooma, don't ask how much of that goes undeclared, textiles, spices, and a roaring cross-border caravan trade. Estimated at 1.8 million Khajiit, with 90,000 in its upper class, 450,000 in its middle class, and 1.26 million in its lower class, with a GDP per capita of 9,125 septims, does give them 16.42 billion septims total, or around $246 billion. At an 11% tax rate, thanks to some bribes falling out of the record books, that's 1.8 billion septims, or $27 billion. That's enough for the Empire to finally fund a giant anti-smuggling task force that promptly quits to become smugglers themselves when they see how profitable and fun moon sugar can be. High Rock is the Empire's feudal playground, where half the economy is artisan luxury and the other half is nobles plotting to buy each other out. Their economy thrives on fine crafts, magic academies, trade finance, and busy ports. We're looking at 2.5 million people, 125,000 in the upper class, 625,000 in its middle class, and 1.75 million in the lower class. The GDP per capita around 13,870 septims, means 34.7 billion septims or $520 billion. With a 13% tax rate, that sends 4.5 billion septims or $68 billion back to the Empire every year. That's enough to fund a massive public education campaign teaching every noble how to stop declaring war over dinner invitations. Morrowind is the Empire's moody cousin with great resources and absolutely zero chill. It's rich in ebony mining, Quama egg farming, alchemy, and House Telvanni magic that's only occasionally totally and completely unethical. The population is around 2.2 million, split between 110,000 in its upper class, 550,000 in its middle class, and 1.54 million in the lower class. GDP per capita will be around 10,950 septims, which means 24.09 billion septims total, or $361 billion. At a 14% tax rate, that's 3.37 billion septims, or $50 billion. That's enough to fund a province-wide activism campaign to finally lift the Empire's levitation ban. Let the Dunmer float again, damn it! Black Marsh is the Empire's answer to the question, how little can we collect in taxes before it's not even worth the paperwork? Their economy in Black Marsh relies on hiss sap, it's not officially sanctioned, obviously, marsh root farming, alchemical ingredients, and exporting Argonian mercenaries who don't ask many questions. Estimated at 1.2 million Argonians would put 60,000 of them in its upper class, 300,000 in its middle class, and the rest of the 840,000 in its lower class. With a small GDP per capita of 54.75 septims, puts them at 6.5 billion septims total, or $98.5 billion. With a 7% effective tax rate, if the Empire can even find the settlements because they move so much, they're paying around 460 million septims, or $7 billion. Hammerfell is what you get when traders and pirates agree on one thing. Taxes are in fact negotiable. It's driven by naval trade, luxury glassware, textiles, weaponsmithing, and yes, unofficial maritime entrepreneurship. I'm estimating 2 million people live here, split amongst 100,000 in the upper class, 500,000 in the middle class, and the remaining 1.4 million in the lower class. With a GDP per capita of 15,330 septims, that'll put them at 30.66 billion septims, or $460 billion. A negotiated 10% tribute to the Empire yields the Empire 3.07 billion septims, or around $46 billion. That's enough to fund entire fleets of ships, modern ports, or just bribe every pirate in the Abyssinian to unionize. Valenwood is the Empire's ecological guilt trip. Beautiful forest, strict green pact rules, and wood elves ready to remind you all about them. Economically, it's about carefully managed artisan woodwork, hunting, tourism in living tree cities, and some cross-border caravan trade with Cyrodiil and Elsweyr. Estimated at 1.4 million people, with 70,000 in the upper class, 350,000 in the middle class, and 980,000 in its lower class, with a GDP per capita of 6,570 septims, adds up to a total of 9.2 billion septims, or $138 billion. With a 9% tax rate from the Empire, because you try collecting taxes in a moving tree city, that's 828 million septims, or just about $12 billion. Summerset is the Empire's magical ATM, where everyone has a degree in condescension and alteration magic. Their wealth comes from magical services, enchanted luxury goods, arcane research, rare ingredients, and commissions for architectural masterpieces. Estimated at 1.7 million people, that'd give 85,000 of them in the upper class, 425,000 in the middle class, and 1.19 million in its lower class. However, they all do live better than most of the other provinces. GDP per capita at 23,725 septims gives a total of 40.33 billion septims, or 605 billion USD. At a solid 16% tax rate, this was before the Thalmor got bossy, that's 6.45 billion septims, or just under $100 billion. That's enough to build so many magical universities that even the average bandit would know at least one spell that isn't stabbing. So let's tally up this grand imperial heist. Empire-wide, we're talking around 233 billion septims, or about $3.5 trillion in total GDP. And for tax revenue, it floats around 30 billion septims, which is right around $450 billion. This is not chump change. This is enough to fund the Legion, maintain roads from Leyawind to Bruma, keep the Arcane University in business, and pay off Daedric cults just long enough for them to stop killing emperors. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Tamriel's very unofficial economy, hit that like button, subscribe for more Elder Scrolls analysis, and let me know in the comments, which province do you think is paying way too much, and which one is getting away with absolute murder? Thanks for watching, and remember, always declare your loot at the Imperial Revenue Office. Or don't. Just don't complain when the guards show up. They used to be adventurers just like you know.